Hi guys, my name is Shannon Keppel, and today I will be talking to you about climate change and its challenges. So, what is climate change? Climate change is defined as the shift in climate patterns, mainly caused by greenhouse gas emissions from natural systems and human activities. To avoid even more catastrophic impacts from climate change, we must keep the global average temperature from rising by more than 2 degrees Celsius. The most recent report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change states that temperatures have increased in the last 100 years and are projected to increase even further in the future. We can expect to see an increase as of right now between 1.1 to 6.4 degrees Celsius. Sea levels are also projected to rise by 0.18 to 0.59 meters due to climate change. This projection, however, does not consider the massive sea level rises that may occur due to the melting of ice sheets. In addition, climate change is projected to result in a rise in the severity and frequency of severe weather events. These changes pose grave threats to humanity, non-human animals, and also to the natural world. So in 2018, the world encountered 315 cases of natural disasters, which are mainly related to the climate. Approximately 68.5 million people, about twice the population of California, were affected, and economic losses amounted to $131.7 billion, of which storms, floods, wildfires, and droughts accounted for approximately 93%. In 2019, ambient air pollution from traffic, industry, power generation, waste burning, and residential fuel combustion resulted in 4.2 million deaths. Mortality from this is attributed to exposure to fine particulate matter and other pollutants, which put people at increased risk of stroke, heart disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, lung cancer, and lower respiratory infections. Today, 99% of the world's population live in areas that exceed the WHO guidelines on air quality established in 2021. In 2020, an estimated 13.3% of the world's food was lost after harvesting and before reaching retail markets. These losses occur during on-farm activities, transport, storage, processing, and wholesaling. In addition, an estimated 17% of total food available to consumers is wasted at household, food service, and retail levels. This translates to 121 kilograms per person each year, which is about 60% of this waste occurring in households. This is important as it impacts the environmental, social, and has economic consequences. For example, food that ends up in landfills generates 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. These are just a few of many examples of vulnerable sectors that are under attack due to climate change. So, in 2015, the Paris Agreement was introduced with the main objective of limiting global temperature increase by 2% by 2100 and pursuing efforts to limit the increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. It is a legally binding international treaty on climate change, and involved countries must update mitigation policies every 5 years. The National Task Force was created in 2021 in the United States, and it contains more than 25 cabinet-level leaders from across agencies who are working together on groundbreaking goals. Some of these goals include reducing U.S. greenhouse gas emissions 50 to 52% below 2005 levels in 2030, reaching 100% carbon pollution-free electricity by 2035, achieving a net zero emissions economy by 2050, and delivering 40% of the benefits from federal investments in climate and clean energy to disadvantaged communities. So how effective are these policies? Well, the Paris Agreement allowed countries to come up with their own goals for reducing climate change and how to accomplish them. This flexibility has allowed several nations to strengthen their initial pledges by promising to cut their net emissions to zero by 2050. There are also signs that the temperature spikes predicted for later this century are easing slightly. Before the 2015 Paris Summit, global emissions were on course to push temperatures up by 3.5 degrees Celsius by 2100, according to estimates by the Climate Action Tracker, which is a nonprofit science consortium. While these are all promising advancements, there are a few setbacks with this agreement. For instance, in the United States, researchers found that states will likely cut emissions by just 18% below 2005 levels by 2025. In contrast, the United States, under former President Obama, had promised cuts between 26 and 28%. If we were supposed to cut our net climate emissions to zero by 2050, we're in big trouble. Some countries also are resisting the Paris Agreement. In Brazil, for example, under the government of President Jair Bolsonaro, deforestation has soared in the Amazon, releasing vast amounts of carbon that had been stored in trees and underground. The National Climate Task Force, however, has seen great success in combating climate change. The United States set records for clean energy deployment in 2021, bringing enough new solar and wind projects online to power 10 million homes and tripling utility-scale battery storage capacity. The bipartisan infrastructure law was also passed under this task force, and it provides historic resources for upgrading the power grid, improving public transit, and investing in zero-emission transit and school buses. The bipartisan infrastructure law will also strengthen the nation's resilience and save taxpayer money, helping communities safeguard against extreme weather events, catastrophic wildfires, and other climate-related disasters. So, while these existing policies have seen some success in reducing the impact of climate change and slowing its progression, there are some ethical and environmental approaches that could be incorporated to improve their success and increase sustainability. The 3 E's of sustainability are, being one. The 3 E's include environment, economy, and equity. Nowadays, people tend to be more environmentally conscious, which is great and can be seen in existing policies like the Paris Agreement. The more we can inform people about climate change and its impact on the environment and themselves, the better. Economically, if we could incorporate more economic incentive into policies, we could see better results in mitigating climate change. For example, some cities like Seattle have pay-as-you-throw programs. This program imposes collection charges based on the size of the garbage can. The less trash produced, the less the city charges. Economic incentives like this would be a great way to reduce trash production, as most people like to save their money. This also decreases emission rates from waste management, making it a double win. Equity is ensuring that all have the right to a sustainable future. Policies that are implemented must make sure to include everyone, as all are affected by climate change. Local ecological knowledge includes detailed knowledge attained from locals of environmental conditions. This type of knowledge is important to include in policies, as it can produce better understanding of impacts and lead to problem-specific responses. It can also help expose biases, inconsistencies, and oversight sometimes found in science. If we were able to combine local ecological knowledge with scientific knowledge, we could implement effective environmental management strategies that could help mitigate climate change. So, immediate and deep reductions in emissions are needed across all sectors to move from a tipping point headed to climate calamity to a turning point for a sustainable future. The Earth's climate is headed in a dangerous direction, and if we don't do something to prevent it, there will be severe consequences. The incorporation of ethical and environmental approaches to existing policies will help create a more sustainable environment and mitigate some of the impacts of climate change.